everybody, it's Angela with Happy Little Stitch Shop, back with you today to talk to you about Lori Holt's flea market table runner. So I fell in love with this table runner. It is the first table runner I've seen in a long time that I really fell in love with. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it, and I couldn't wait to get it in the shop. It is now here, and since then, some of you have reached out and asked me to do a tutorial on it. I've talked about it every week on our live stream almost, and some of you have reached out and said, could you show us how to do that applique process? So first of all, Lori Holt has her own YouTube channel. She does applique tutorials on there. She's definitely the expert in this arena, so you should go check her out and watch her tutorials. But my hope is to be able to inspire you to give this a try. If I can do it, trust me, anybody can do it. So please take a watch. Hopefully you'll see how user-friendly and how brilliant Lori's method is, and then you'll be willing to jump in and give these things a try. So this is the table runner. This uses Lori's Flea Market fabric collection by Riley Blake Designs. And I'm gonna try to just go through step by step and show you how I do it and how it comes together for me, and hopefully it will inspire you to jump in and give it a try too. So first step is you are going to open up your kit and pull out all of your goodies to see what's inside. So you'll see you get the pattern for the table runner. You get two 5-inch stackers, also known as charm packs. You get a bundle of this beautiful sea glass fabric for binding, and you get a big bundle of background fabric. So the first step is you are going to grab your pattern, go find a comfy spot, and read through the pattern so you know what the plan is, and just give it a good read. Just take your time, read through it, and then we'll come back here and we'll start on step 2. Okay guys, so we took a second and we read through our table runner pattern so that we know what the plan is. And now I'm gonna take a minute and I'm gonna go through some of the items that you need in order to complete this project. It's worth noting that this table runner can use any method of applique that you are comfortable with. So if you have a different method of applique that you would prefer to use, you can for sure go ahead and use that. You don't have to use Lori's method. I'm going to be using Lori's method for the purpose of this tutorial, so that's what you're gonna see me do. And also it's my favorite method. I personally think it's brilliant, as I have said before, time and time again. So it's a very user-friendly method, and I'm excited to give you a look at how it looks. But if you have another method that you're more comfortable with, please feel free to use that. Okay, to start, you are going to need Lori's sew-in interfacing. And all of these items that I'm going to show you, I have linked below. We have all of them in the shop. If we don't, at the time, if you're looking to get it and you're watching this later and we don't have them, always feel free to reach out and contact me. Email me, happylittlestitchshop@gmail.com, and I am going to be restocking all of these items, and so it might just be a timing thing. But all of these items are linked below, and they will all be in the shop. So you need Lori's sew-in interfacing. You will need, this one is actually optional, but Lori has a seed ruler set that has a large seed ruler and a small seed ruler. For this table runner, we will be using the small seed ruler. However, there is also a template in the pattern that you can use for the seed ruler. So you don't have to get this acrylic seed ruler. You can use the template that's in the pattern. But if you like the acrylic kind like I do, then this is also available. So you'll need the smaller seed ruler. For finishing, we're gonna be using some of Lori's vintage trim. This color is sea glass. Also for finishing, we're gonna be using Lori's cute 1/4-inch buttons. And then these items I would highly recommend. The first thing are Lori Holt's applique pins. I have done applique before. I have done Dresden quilts. I've used other pins, and they bend. I debated for the longest time. I'm just gonna tell you a little story. I couldn't decide if I was gonna get these or not. I thought, I have other pins. I'm just gonna use these other pins for this applique process. I'm not gonna get these from the shop and use them. I decided at the last minute to get them and give them a try. I'm so glad that I did. These pins, I notice a big difference actually. So they are stronger, they're a little bit shorter. When I do the applique process and I use these, it's just easier. I can stick it into the board, as you will see later when we do that part of the quilt. When I use these, they just work much, much better. So if you're looking for applique pins, specifically for applique, I would highly recommend these. These are Lori Holt's pretty pins for applique. You will also need a clover point turner, which looks like this. You will need some Sue Daly applique glue. This is by Sue Daly Designs. It's excellent glue. I'm almost out of it. I'm gonna need to get more. I would recommend Lori Holt's seam roller. Have used this a lot in this process, and it's very handy. And then also I would recommend the 10-inch design board, one of Lori Holt's 10-inch design boards. We use this to set the applique pieces onto the background. You'll see later in the process, but these come in very handy for that. So those are all the items you need. And then outside of this, you're gonna need some rulers, your average quilting stuff, some rotary cutters, rulers, those types of things that you would typically use when you're putting together a quilt. So step 2, here are all the goodies. And then step 2 is gonna be grabbing your pattern and going to the cutting requirements section and cutting up all your fabric according to the cutting requirements. Once you're done with that, come on back and we'll move on to step 3. Okay guys, so we went through and we cut up all of our fabric according to the pattern, and now it's time to make some seeds. So for this step, you're gonna need your seed ruler, and you're going to need your sew-in interfacing pieces that you cut up, and you're also going to need some of the fabric squares that you cut up, or rectangles that you cut up. And you'll need a pen. I use a friction pen for tracing. And for this part, we're just gonna do 4 seeds to make 1 block. But eventually you'll go through and you'll do all of the seeds. So we're gonna take our template and we're gonna place it in the center of the interfacing, and you're just gonna trace around it. And you're gonna do this times 4 for this 1 block that we're working on. Of course, you'll do this for each block that you make for this table runner. So it doesn't have to be perfectly in the center of your interfacing. It just you don't have to measure or worry about doing anything like that to make sure it's perfectly centered. Just put it as close to the center as possible and trace around there. And then you're going to take your piece of fabric, you're gonna put that right side up, and you're gonna take your interfacing drawn side up, so the side that we just drew on or traced on, and you're gonna put it right on top of your piece of fabric. And center it kind of in the fabric. Now, if you are a pinner, you can go ahead and put a pin in here to hold it in place. I don't take the time to pin if I can help it. And so I'm just gonna take these over to my sewing machine as is, and we are going to sew just right around on this line that we just traced on. So let's go do that. Okay everybody, I'm at the sewing machine and I'm ready to sew around on this seed that we traced on here. Remember, you have your fabric right side up and you have the traced side of your interfacing on top. And now we're just gonna start and we're gonna sew around here. Now, it's recommended or suggested that we don't do back stitching here to secure our stitch. Instead, what we are going to do is we're going to stitch around the entire thing, and when we come back to this area, we're going to over stitch by a few to try to cut down on a little bit of thread bulk there. So we're going to go ahead and give this a try. Now sometimes I get stitch fright in front of the camera, so just bear with me. And take your time. Don't feel rushed with this. You want to stay as close to the line as possible. When you get to the end, you're gonna find a good place to stop and you're gonna pivot and then keep sewing around the outside. Try to stay as much on the line as possible. I have veered off the line at times, and it's okay as long as it's not too terribly far off the line. Overstitch by a little bit, and then that's it. And then you're going to go through and you're going to do this for all 4 of your seeds that we just did, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we just finished sewing our seeds onto our fabric, our interfacing onto our fabric, and now we are going to move on to the next step. For this step, you are going to need a scissors. You're going to need all the the seeds that you just sewed on your sewing machine, and you're gonna need your clover point turner. Okay, first step, you're gonna take one seed and you are going to cut about 1/4 of an inch around the outside of the seed. Again, this is not something you have to measure. You just have to kind of eyeball about 1/4 of an inch and cut each of the seeds out. You're gonna do this times 4. Sometimes my 1/4 of an inch is a little bit larger and sometimes it's a little bit smaller. But that's okay, as long as it's, you know, it's not gonna rip out or anything at any point. It'll be fine. So cut around 1/4 of an inch around all 4. Next step, this is important. We are going to take the interfacing and we're gonna pull it away from the fabric because we're gonna do a little snip in the interfacing and you do not want to snip your fabric, okay? Once you get a little snip in there, you're gonna make a little cross or an X on the interfacing. Not too big, you know, just right in the center. And then you are going to turn these the right side out. And I find it's much easier if you push the fabric through instead of trying to push the interfacing around. So get that fabric and push that fabric through. You're gonna turn it right side out. And then you are going to take your clover point turner, and this is where this comes in super handy. You're gonna wanna shape this seed so that it looks like as close to the template as we can get it. So shape around the sides, push the tips out to get them nice and, you know, as pointy as you can. Shape around the other side. You want to push kind of firm, not too firmly that you're going to push through your stitches, but firmly enough that you're giving the fabric a good shape. Take a peek at it, make sure your points are looking okay and nothing looks too wonky. If it doesn't look quite right, then you can go ahead and keep working with it and keep shaping it. And you're gonna go through and you're gonna do this to all 4 of these seeds. Again, push through, try to push the fabric. Sometimes it doesn't feel natural to me, but I like to try to take the back side and kind of work it around the other side, but it works a lot better if you push the fabric through instead of the other way around. Kind of push those points out as much as possible and then take your shaper. And the more you do this, the more comfortable you will get with it. So the first time you do it, don't be deterred because it might feel kind of awkward and you can't get that tool in there to do what you want it to do, but just keep working with it because it'll get better the more you do it. Okay, so do this to all 4 of your seeds and then we'll come back for the next part. Okay, everybody, now you have gone through and you've made your seeds. You've cut the X in the back, you've turned them right side out, you've shaped them. What you need to do after you shape them is go to your iron and give them a good press so that they're nice and flat. They're not so puffy. And then once you're done with that, you're gonna come back and you're gonna grab one of your background pieces that you cut, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna fold it in half this way. You're gonna take your seam roller and you're gonna make that crease there. What we're doing here is we're finding the center so that we can center our seeds onto our background fabric. So go ahead and crease those, and then we're gonna put this on our design board. Kind of flatten it out. Then get your applique pins handy Take your first seed. Now what I do is I look at both ends. If I have an end that's not as nice as I'd like it to look, I'm going to put that towards the center, because at the end of all of this, this center area will be partially covered by buttons. So you're going to center it on this line. See how my points are on lining up with the crease, and I'm going to put pins in here. Same thing with this one. I'm going to kind of put it at the center here, pin it, and then I'm going to kind of run my hand along it, make sure it's lined up with the crease over here, pin it. I'm looking at my points on each of these to see if I have any that I don't like, because I'm going to put that towards the center. Grab a pin, pin it, flatten it out, make sure it's lined up with the crease down here, pin it, and then the same thing with the last one. I'm going to put it down, put a pin down here, line it up here, and put a pin here. So all of your points should be lined up with the center creases that we just added here. Now we're going to grab our Sue Daily applique glue, and we are going to put just a dab of glue to secure. We put some on along the sides as well, but we want to secure this so that we can do the hand stitching part. Now, I prefer to hand stitch when I secure my pieces to the background. You can certainly machine stitch if you prefer to. I like the hand stitching process, and for those of you who are my fellow cross stitchers out there, you might find that the hand stitching applique process is very relaxing, and that you enjoy it quite a bit. That's how I feel about it. I enjoy hand stitching my applique, and I enjoy hand stitching my binding. We're going to try to get just a little bit down here in the center under all of these tips. You don't need much of it. I'm almost out of my Sue Daily glue now, but I've probably had this for about a year. So it lasts for a long time because you don't need a lot of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out these pins, making sure to hold down the fabric as I remove the pin so that nothing moves. And then I'm going to take one of my square rulers, and I'm going to put it right on top here, and I'm going to set something heavy on top and just give that about 10 to 15 minutes to dry before I go ahead and do the hand stitching part. So while you're waiting for this to dry, you can go make more of your blocks, make more of your seeds. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to make all of my blocks at one time, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to hand stitch them all. And then I'm going to come back and do the piecing part at the end to add our cornerstones to the table runner. So that's probably going to be my process, but you can put this together in whatever process works for you. So we'll come back in about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I will show you how I do the hand stitching to get the pieces stitched down to the background. Okay, everybody, so I have another block here that I had glued down before. This one is dry, and now these pieces are going to stay put. See, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to stay put while I stitch them on. So I have my applique needle. I recommend Lori's applique needles. I've used them all the time and I love them. And I have a piece of thread. I already tied a knot in the bottom of the thread. I didn't want to put you through the pain of watching me tie that knot. So that's already done. And what we're gonna do is I usually like to start someplace on the side of the seed. You're gonna go down through the background fabric first and kind of under the seed. And then you're gonna, when you come back up with your needle, you are gonna grab, see, I'm gonna grab just a side of the seed. Not come straight up on the top, but I'm gonna try to have my stitch be on the side. Now my knot has grabbed the fabric there. I've got a little bit of a tail here. I'm gonna take that tail and I'm gonna tuck it in underneath. And if you have some like this that's left out, you can either work it in and tuck it in there, or you can always grab a scissors and just cut that little bit off. Then, see where my thread is coming back up out of my seed? I'm gonna go right back down in the background fabric, right where that thread is coming back up, or in that area. And then I'm gonna come back up again and just grab the side of the seed. And this is gonna secure it down. So go through the background fabric, come up as close to the edge of the seed as you can get. Go down through the background fabric, come up, grab some of that seed, down through the background fabric, come back up, grab a little bit of the edge. And sometimes you might need to take a few shots before you get it, you know, right where you want it. Down through the background fabric, up through the side, down through the background fabric, up through the side. You're going to do this all the way around all 4 of these seeds that make this flower. Now, when I get up to the top, I'm going to do probably 2 or 3 smaller stitches to secure that tip, that point. The reason being, that could be the part that starts to come up or get separated. I just want to secure it and really make sure that it's sewn down up there. So my stitches are going to be a little bit smaller when I get up to the top, and I'm going to do a few extra smaller stitches, meaning I'm not going to go quite as far as I am along the sides. And again, I get stitch fright when stitching on the camera, so I'm a little more anxious doing this now than I would typically be. So now that I'm up at the top, I'm going to try to grab this tip again, go down through the back, come up. That was pretty good right there. And then I'm going to do another one here to try to grab the top again. And then I'm just going to continue along the side like I would on the other side. I got to get this stitch in, then turn it so that I'm at a better angle. So secure that down, and then you can turn it and just keep going around the seeds. And then once you have all of that done, then you are ready to move on to the next block and keep securing seeds. You've got lots of flowers to secure to the background. And then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up. Okay, so I just finished going around this entire seed. And I'm back at the beginning. I've overstitched just a little bit from where we started. And now you're gonna wanna know how to finish this off. So you're gonna go straight down through the background. Again, when you go down, try to go under the seed as much as possible, just to kind of hide that stitch. And you're gonna go down through the background to the other side. And then you're gonna just put the needle, we're gonna bury this thread is what we're gonna do. So make sure it's not coming through the other side. We have put it through between where the interfacing is in the background fabric and the front side. So it's in between these layers of fabric. And you're gonna stick it through there, and then you're gonna pull it out. And then we're gonna clip it off as close to the fabric as possible. And now that thread is buried under there. And then you're gonna go around and do the other 3 seeds. Once you're done stitching all of the seeds down and finishing them like this one is stitched all the way around the outside. Then you're gonna take this to your iron and you're gonna give your whole block a good press. And then once you have all of these blocks done, you'll be ready to add the cornerstones to each of the corners of the block. Okay, so now you have stitched down all of your seeds onto your background fabric. And now you're ready to move on and add the corners to each of your blocks. I'm not going to go through this part step by step. All of the instructions are in the pattern, so you can just follow those piecing instructions. But this is what your blocks are going to look like once you add the corners to it. So you'll go through and you'll add the corners to all of your blocks, and then you will sew all of your blocks together, and there are some borders to add. You will do all your finishing touches and finish everything according to the pattern. And then once you are done with your project, please be sure to use hashtag #HappyLittleStitchShop and share your finished projects on Instagram and Facebook, and tag me so that I can see it, because I would love, love, love to see it. I hope that this inspired you to give applique a try. Don't be scared of it. It's so much fun. So don't be deterred or turned off by it. Just jump in and give it a try. And I hope that I laid it out very clearly to show you how easy it is. And if I can do it, please trust me. All of you out there can do it, because I am no expert. So if I can do this, then you guys can do it too. So jump in and give it a try. Be sure to tag us and share your photos on social media. And a special thanks to Lori Holt and to Riley Blake Designs. We wouldn't be able to have these fun tutorials without their genius designs and their brilliant fabric. So thank you so, so much for that, and especially for Lori's brilliant applique method. I'm a huge fan. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Happy Little Stitch Shop. Please be sure to subscribe and give us a thumbs up on our YouTube channel. And remember, our website to do all of your quilting and cross-stitch shopping is happylittlestitchshop.com. Thank you so, so much for taking some time and watching our tutorial. I hope to see lots of flea market table runners being posted out there. Thanks so much, guys. Happy stitching. Take care.